Revelation, Job, and Isaiah prophecies, full moon the night before Easter, which lands on April Fool's Day. What could possibly go wrong? And I want to share with you some origins of Easter, Happy Ishtar Day, Queen Fertility Goddess Day, or is it really based on the resurrection of Jesus Christ portrayed in the New Testament? Well, if you've followed Leak Project for even a short while now, and you've seen some of the previous podcasts that I've done on these Sumerian tablets, which predate the Hebrew scriptures, which were translated into the Holy Bible that most people look at as a canon of reality connected to the afterlife, God, heaven, hell, what's right, what's wrong, what's etched in stone, etc. Well, literally, many of the Hebrew scriptures, and whether it's the Old Testament or New Testament, is based on stories that literally were etched in stone or some type of clay cuneiform tablet. And I've also shared with you how the Sumerians conquered the Arada people and took their knowledge and information and rewrote their history. So oftentimes we have to rely on the information from the victors, whether or not what we're learning about history and religion and spirituality, etc., is real. And oftentimes you have to find that internally with internal wisdom, not just external knowledge. It's good if you can have both because they can work hand in hand. And I look at the scriptures, even these Sumerian tablets, after reading most of them through the Oxford University's website, and they have done a very good job translating these ancient tablets. And I think that many of these stories that are described are based on the stars, literally, and the planets. And people watch certain events unfold in the heavens, and it's the as above, so below cliche. Literally, it is valid. Even quantum physics and technology and modern science can verify these ancient teachings. It's just a different version, a different way to describe it. And in Isaiah, I want to talk about some of these scriptures here. Isaiah 14:12. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning star? How art thou cut down to the ground, which did weaken the nations? And then, so specifically saying the morning star cuts down to the ground and it weakens the nations, calling it Lucifer, the light bearer. Then Revelation 22:16, I, Jesus, have sent my angel to give you this testimony for the churches. I am the root and the offspring of David, the bright morning star. So Jesus says he is the bright morning star, and also Lucifer, son of the morning star. Then, if you want to go to Job, let's step over to Job 38:7. And this was God asking Job, where were you? Going way back. And then this references when the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy. So is this referring to the morning stars? There's the duality, the male and the female, the masculine and the feminine aspects of Venus also. And these scriptures and these ancient orders gathered this information and compiled it as something is evil when it might be just the feminine aspect, and you read the King James Bible and how sexist it is, I wonder if the description of the morning star being Lucifer and the morning star being Jesus could refer to the male and feminine aspect of Venus. And I want to share with you a little bit of astrotheology here in a moment. I've got a great book on astrotheology. And also, when you go back to this April Fool's Day being Easter, and last night was a full moon, energy was incredible. I said, what could go wrong? I'm thinking of, I don't know, war and false peace, or peace and false war. What do you think about that? Now, Venus and the eight-pointed star connections to the Ishtar and Nana archetype and symbolism. I want to share with you a little bit of Inanna's descent to the underworld and the description of how she goes to the netherworld for 3 nights, 3 days. And she has to give somebody up in order to make it back, even after Enki helps save her after she goes to Enlil. And Enlil isn't going to, well, she doesn't go to Enlil because she's in the netherworld. But before she went to the netherworld, she asked her mistress to help her if she couldn't get out of there. And she goes, first go to Enlil. If Enlil says no, then go to somebody else. And I'll get that person's name in a second. Excuse me. And I'm going to share the story with you. But make a long story short, Enki is the one that saves her. And even though she gets saved from the netherworld and she comes back from the netherworld, then she still has to give somebody up to the demons to make up for her coming back. And she ends up giving up Dumazid, which I think is also oftentimes linked to Jesus in the New Testament that they describe. And I'm not saying there wasn't a Jesus, folks. I'm not saying there wasn't a Yeshua or whatever his original name was. But even the remote viewing that has been done on that individual shows that as far as the crucifixion goes, he wasn't really crucified. Somebody else took his place and was crucified. So you can take that for what you will. You can say that's demonic, that's evil, that's not true, that's from the Antichrist, and it could be. That could be misinformation also. But it doesn't mean the people that did the remote viewing intentionally did it, because I think that they're probably right. But could there be something in the system that could change the Akashic records and actually manipulate the Akashic records so when you remote view it, you would see something that didn't happen? And that is a possibility. I mean, you can read about how you can actually manipulate memories and you can manipulate the Akashic records once you get to a certain level. But you have to be the elite in Jedi status. You can read about it. Franz Barton, Initiation into Hermetics. He talks about that later on in the courses, how to actually do that. It's very, very difficult to do. It's like changing the hard drive of reality and of life, of the inner core. So it's changing the simulation. So I think that that is probably true, what these remote viewers saw and how somebody actually fake. And you can even read in the Gnostic stuff, the Nag Hammadi, it talks about how Jesus wasn't really sacrificed at the cross. And there's different interpretations of that. Some say he was, because he's mocking these people in these scriptures. He's mocking the people that are thinking they're sacrificing him on the cross. And he's making fun of them. And he's saying, that's not me. So could it be his spiritual self saying that, or could there actually be another person there? A lot of speculation on that. We can only go off of what we know and the research from what is available to us, from what we can find. Now, I also think of the possibility of Enki being reincarnated as Loki and these other beings and other deities. Now, were these beings and deities real people? and real godly like people, demigods, etc. at one point? And did they go through these trials and tribulations that are talked about? Did they go through some of them or all of them, or did they ever even exist in certain cases? Or was it a specific person eons ago that has just been written about over and over and over and over again? Or is it just like an offspring or a family member or something that's a lot like you but not you? Then you can study the lexicons and the Kabbalah associated with these names and these deities and these beings and these characters that are in these scriptures and these storylines. And then you find out that, and first of all, I don't care. If somebody comes to me and says, "Oh, that person's a Freemason, or that person's a Rosicrucian, or that person's in a secret society or a mystery order, so they must have some alternative agenda, or some sinister motive, or they're evil, or they worship the devil, or blah blah blah." First of all, false. Most of the time, that's false. Now, are there people in specific orders and stuff that worship what they would call the devil? Sure, absolutely. Are there people that have sinister motives? Absolutely. There's plenty of people that aren't associated with any secret societies or mystery schools that are that have sinister motives and ill intent. So most of that is ignorance, in my opinion, when people go out and start attacking somebody because they're a part of a mystery school or a secret society or they're a Freemason or whatever. First of all, I'm not, but I know people that are, and they're very good people, and they're very intelligent. I know somebody that's a 32nd degree Mason that's got the card, etc. Like, here's my card. He showed it to me, and I started asking him questions about the world today and what he thinks about the world and how many people are on the planet and the resources, etc. And we got into some of the deep stuff. But there's really not a specific... Well, let's go back a minute. Brigham Young, Joseph Smith. Was it... Okay, so hold on a second. I got to double check this. Joseph Smith. There is a lot of information that says Joseph Smith was a Freemason. And if you look at much of the symbology with Freemasonry and with the Mormon Church and even the icon of Utah, the Beehive State, there's you would say, wow, that what's up with all these similarities here? There's got to be some kind of connection. So research the Mormon religion and Freemason connections. Quite fascinating. And then research how King James, this is what I think is real funny, is when people that are just, avid believers of the King James Bible and they just cling to it like it's, it's it, that's it. Everything in there is just the only truth, and their interpretation of what's in there is the only truth. And a lot of these people are like, man, Freemasons are evil, man. They're evil. They're wicked. And then you say, well, did you know that King James was a Freemason? No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. Look at the lodge in Scotland. Type in King James, Freemason, lodge. You can even see the lodge in Scotland and the painting of King James being a Freemason. So a lot of this information, and with that said, one thing about the Freemason order, from the little bit that I know, is a lot of the symbolism, and I'm not a Freemason, so I could be wrong here. If you're a Freemason, I'd love to have you on the show. I had a roundtable show once where a roundtable of Freemasons came on the show. This is when I was back like 2,000 subscribers, and really nice people. And I was asking a lot of these questions, and the symbolism, if you read Albert Pike, right here, Morals and Dogma by Albert Pike, good book, by the way. I haven't read the whole thing, but I've read a lot of it. Describes how symbols can have an infinite amount of knowledge. Just one symbol can represent an infinite number of things. So that's why symbols can be so powerful. So if you look at a beehive, or if you look at even, let's say, an upside down star, the pentagram, a lot of people that might be of a specific thought process, like, oh, that's evil, that's wicked, that's the devil. One person might say, oh, that's Baphomet. And then you might say, oh, Baphomet's evil. Then people can say, no, Baphomet represents the yin and the yang, the alpha, the up, the down, the right, the wrong. It represents everything. It's like a representation of the universe per se, the feminine, the masculine, the earthly desires, the heavenly desires, the left, the right paths, etc., pointing up, pointing down. So a lot of this is just based on what somebody thinks is true based upon their own interpretations. And a lot of what you learn about in religion that's been written about in these scriptures have been handed down from generation to generation and tweaked and twisted a little bit to fit certain agendas. And then you read the Bible that bases everything on a monotheistic. They do their best with the King James Version of the Bible to create a monotheistic system, a monotheistic God. Elohim, being plural, they make it look as if it's one almost, or at least many pastors and priests and preachers attempt to do that. So you talk to 20 different pastors of the same religion, you're probably going to get 20 different answers, even if you ask the same question. And when you read through these scriptures, oftentimes even the words or the names of the individuals, such as Solomon, can have an entire Kabbalah of knowledge. Each letter, the word itself, can represent a multitude of storylines. And then when you look for certain keys, when it talks about the Lion of Judah, and then you read through the Gnostic stuff and how Yaldabaoth has the lion head and the worm body, or the snake body, or the serpent body. And then you can read about Adam and Eve and the serpent in tricking Eve from eating from the tree of knowledge. And then you think, well, this representation of this snake, which also could be representation of a worm or the sperm. You look at these gods and these deities and these pantheons of entities, oftentimes will be depicted with lion heads and then the snakes wrapping around their bodies, even though they have wings. The snake fighting the eagle. The polarities, the characters, the representations, the tablets, the storylines. And I want to share with you this right here. Okay. We just look at it. Revelation 22:16. Now let's look at the Hebrew translation here. I'm going to show you this. This is interesting. I, Jesus, sent the angel to testify to you these vertical communities in the root of David's. And underneath that it says, ordinary processes, Venus Hashur. And it almost looks like Venus Ishtar is what I'm thinking. Now, but Venus is connected to Ishtar, which is connected to Inanna. And Jesus is connected to Venus. And Lucifer is connected to Venus. Venus is, the day that governs Venus is Friday. So isn't that, well, here, let's go back. I want to show you this. So now let's go English. Now let me show you this. Go to Hebrew 22:16. So this is the Hebrew, as close to the original as we can get as far as in Hebrew. And then we'll change that back over to English. So, very interesting indeed. Now, once again, we go over into Lucifer, Isaiah 14:12. The bringer of dawn, for the morning star. And you can get into the literal meaning, it says. The literal meaning. The translation as Lucifer, as in the King James Version, has been abandoned in modern English translations of Isaiah. Present day translations render that word in Hebrew as morning star, shining one, shining star, day star. The term appears in the context of an oracle against a dead king of Babylon, who is addressed as there's the name right there, rendered in the King James Version. So, O Lucifer, son of the morning, and in others as morning star, son of the dawn. Now, once again, let's go back to last year and this major sign in the heavens, Venus, just the brightest star in the sky, the brightest planet, looked like a star. So many people on the internet were saying it's Nibiru coming back. It's a binary star. It's a new planet. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. It's Venus. I was looking at it with my telescope, looking at the star charts. It was Venus. It's just very bright. So, now let's go to Job. Job 38. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, and this is, I'm thinking of Enlil, Lord of the wind. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, who is this that darkeneth counsel by words without knowledge? Gird up now thy loins like a man, for I will demand of thee, and answer thou me. Where was thou when I laid the foundations of the earth? Declare, if thou hast understanding. Who hath laid the measures thereof, if thou knowest? Or who hath stretched the line upon it? Whereupon are the foundations thereof fastened? Or who laid the cornerstone thereof? When the morning stars sang together, and the sons of God shouted for joy? Or who shut up the sea with doors, when it brake forth as if it issued out of the womb? When I made the cloud the garment thereof, and thick darkness a swaddling band for it, and brake up for it my decreed place, and set bars and doors, and said, hitherto shall thou come, but no further, and here shall thy proud waves be stayed. So he's talking, he's saying, Job, where were you when I was making all this? You don't understand. And he's talking about how the morning stars were singing together. So this is before the angels, the fallen angels descended, before the 33% fell down. Which, by the way, I've got 33 custom limited edition Leak Project hats with these really cool liners. You got to check this out. We just look at it. So this is a liner that has two fabrics that help shield from EMFs up to 30 gigahertz. So how cool is that? So this right here, this just goes in your hat. These are removable liners. These limited edition ones have removable liners. 33 and their sign. So anyway, 33 is actually a really cool number. Jesus was 33. Oh, yeah, and 33 is like the apex. 33 is supposed to be one of the very powerful years of one's life, one of the best years of one's life. So, 33. People say, oh man, you're a Freemason. No, I'm not a Freemason. But why do you got to give him such a hard time? Okay, so anyway. So, when the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy. So, what else was I going to get into? I'm thinking of the as above, so below. So, people seeing these constellations in the heavens and then seeing how after a certain time the crops will grow, the winter will be over, they'll start to have more opportunities for food from the fruit and the vegetables and what grows, etc. They'll see more livestock come around because they're eating the food as well, and abundance, stuff like that. And then they might have started to mimic these events. And then you can even think of these things that happen to you in everyday life that kind of mirror what you would think of as a higher sense, something that is just higher than yourself. You're like, well, there's too many synchronicities and too many similarities for it just to be coincidence. It's happened just too many times. And then you're like, okay, well, there's something higher, something above me that's influencing me, that's kind of orchestrating things, putting things in front of me. It's me bringing that down as well based upon my thoughts, my desires, what I want, and you as well is what I'm referring to. When these things happen, do you ever question yourself or question your surroundings? Like, how could this happen just naturally without some type of order or some type of influence behind it? And I think of these scriptures and these storylines, for example, talking about how Inanna goes to the netherworld and how she has to go through all this pain and suffering, and how she has her mistress go to Enlil, and then Enki at the very end to get her back out of there. And she does get out of the underworld, but she also has to be hung on a hook for 3 days and 3 nights. And then when she's brought back, then she has to give somebody up to the demons so that she can stay out of there. And she doesn't give up people that work for her, but then she gets back to her husband Dumazid, and it kind of, the reading through it the first time I didn't pick up on it, but then somebody made a point about how he might have been having a little too much fun while she was gone. So she got jealous and then gave him up in return. Very interesting indeed. So definitely check out these Oxford stories. I'll leave a link in the video description box, and read Inanna's descent to the netherworld. And there's also a lot of stories about how Inanna gets one up on Enki and On. So not only the father of the Anunnaki, but also Enki, which is supposed to be the wisest and most cunning and trickiest of them all. Well, she tricks Enki even, which is interesting. Those are some good stories. But she wants to descend to the netherworld, and then she gets down there, and she has to take off 7 different layers to go, and she goes through like 7 different gates, and she gives up 7 different layers of her clothing, etc. And also Urim. Oh, that's who the next person was. So first she has her mistress ask Enlil to get her out of there. He says, nope, not going to do it. Once you go down there, you can't come back because you'll obtain knowledge that you're not supposed to bring back. And so then she says, okay, well then go to Urim. And then Urim says no, he's not going to bring her back. Then she has her mistress go to Enki. And Enki is the one that gets her out of there. And he uses some type of, I can't remember if this was the one where he used some DNA or something, and he used these like shape-shifting demons that were able to sneak in there and get her out. But then as she's leaving, the demons are still like, nope, you got to give us somebody in return. And who was it that she gave up? Oh yeah, okay, so let me read this to you. 217, 225. This is when her mistress is asking Enki for help. Father Enki, answered Ninkumbir, what has my daughter done? She has me worried. What has Inanna done? She has me worried. And then he's told, so Enki removed some dirt from the tip of his fingernail and created the Kurjara. He removed some dirt from the tip of his other fingernail and created the Galatura, which are these 2 like shape-shifting demons. To the Kurjara, he gave the life-giving plant, which I wonder if that's the meh. Oftentimes we see the tree of life, and it looks like DNA. And then oftentimes you'll see him with a pine cone, which is the pineal gland. So it's like they manipulated us to not only have this specific DNA, but also pineal gland, like the third eye, the higher level of consciousness, which now they attempt to suppress. I don't know if it's they or somebody is attempting to suppress our pineal gland as much as possible with the fluoridation, the GMOs, the nasty toxins that are put in the shots that they like to give you, the medicine shots. So they sneak through the doors like flies, these shape-shifting demons, bring her back to life. She gets out of there. After Inanna had ascended from the underworld, Ninkumbir threw herself at her feet at the door of the Gonzer. She had sat in the dust and clothed herself in a filthy garment. The demon said to the holy Inanna, Inanna, proceed to your city. We will take her back. Now also go back to much the self-mutilation that's done. And for religion, like people that'll just sit there and they'll just smash their backs with whips and with chains. Have you seen them before where they've slashed their back so hard it'll just slice it right in half? They'll pass out. They get just, oh man, just thinking about it's freaking me out. Well, that I am seeing a connection to this self-mutilation that Ninkumbir did for Inanna, because Inanna told her to like lash herself up, to cut up her butt and to cut herself all over and put herself in pain. Like, let me tell you what she did. She lacerated her eyes for me, lacerated her nose for me. She lacerated her ears for me in public. In private, she lacerated her buttocks for me. Like a pauper, she clothed herself in a single garment. So then, once Inanna's getting out of there, holy Inanna answered the demons, Kara is my singer. Because they're saying, hey, give us somebody. We want somebody for you. You know, because you made it out of here. Now give us someone for you. So she wouldn't give up her singer. She wouldn't give up her mistress that got her back out. Holy Inanna, this is 344, 347. Holy Inanna answered the demons. Outstanding. Lulal follows me at my right and my left. How could I turn him over to you? So she won't give up Lulal either. Then they followed her to the great apple tree in the plain of Kolaba. There, where Dumazid, clothed in a magnificent garment and seated magnificently on a throne, the demons seized him there by his thighs. The 7 of them poured the milk from his churns. The 7 of them shook their heads. They would not let the shepherd play the pipe and flute before her. She looked at him. It was the look of death. She spoke to him. It was the speech of anger. She shouted to him. It was the shout of heavy guilt. How much longer? Take him away. Holy Inanna gave Dumazid the shepherd into their hands. Those who had accompanied her, who had come for Dumazid, know no food, know no drink, eat no flour offering, drink no libation. They never enjoy the pleasures of the material embrace. They never have sweet children to kiss. They snatch the son from a man's knee. They make the bride leave the house of her father-in-law. Dumazid let out a wail and wept. The lad raised his hands to heaven, to Utu. Utu, you are my brother-in-law. I am your relation by marriage. I brought butter to your mother's house. I brought milk to Ningal's house. Turn my hands into snakes' hands and turn my feet into snakes' feet so I can escape my demons. Let them not keep hold of me. Utu accepted his tears. Dumazid's demons could not keep hold of him. Utu turned Dumazid's hands into snake hands. He turned his feet into snake's feet. Dumazid escaped his demons. Like a sockjaw snake, they seized. Holy Inanna wept bitterly for her husband. She tore at her hair like esparto grass. She ripped it out like esparto grass. You wives who lie in your men's embrace, where is my precious husband? You children who lie in your men's embrace, where is my precious child? Where is my man? Where is my man? Where? A fly spoke to Holy Inanna. If I show you where your man is, what will be my reward? Holy Inanna answered the fly. If you show me where my man is, I will give you this gift. I will cover. So the fly helps Inanna. In the beer house, bronze vessels, you will live, the son of man, the sons of, like the sons of the wise. So, and then it says at the end, you for half the year and your sister for half the year. When you are demanded on that day, you will stay. When your sister is demanded on that day, you will be released. Thus, Holy Inanna gave Dumazid as a substitute. Holy Erich Gala, sweet is your praise. So, she goes to the netherworld. Enlil won't bring her back. He says, nope. Nanna did not help her. And Enki's the one that helps her out. Okay, here we go. I wanted to share this with you. This is after she gives up 6 different parts of her clothing. Now she's entering the 7th gate. The pall dress, the garment of ladyship, was removed from her body. What is this? Be silent, Inanna. A divine power of the underworld has been fulfilled. Inanna, you must not open your mouth against the rights of the underworld. So after she had crouched down and her clothes removed, they were carried away. Then she made her sister Erich Gala rise from her throne, and instead she sat on her throne. Then the Anuna, the 7 judges, rendered their decision against her. They looked at her, it was the look of death. They spoke to her, it was the speech of anger. They shouted at her, it was the shout of heavy guilt. The afflicted woman was turned into a corpse, and the corpse was hung on a hook. After 3 days and 3 nights had passed, her minister, Nincambur, did not forget her orders. She did not neglect her instructions. So then she goes, she makes a lament for her in her house. She beat the drum in the sanctuary. She made the rounds of the houses of the gods for her. She lacerated her eyes, her nose, her buttocks. Then she put herself in a single piece of clothing like a pauper. And then she set on foot in the Ekur for the house of Enlil. And Enlil says, nope, I'm not bringing her back. It's too late. She's down there. It was her decision. The divine powers of the underworld are divine powers which should not be craved, for whoever gets them must remain in the underworld. Who, having got to that place, could then expect to come up again? So, by coming back up from there, she obtained some serious power. Like, it took her to the next level. She was already this incredible goddess. And I'm wondering if the stories that talk about how she outfoxed Enki and On, was that after or before? Because now, after she comes back from this, her power is next level. So, happy Easter, happy Ishtar, goddess of fertility day. And then also there's the connection of, and isn't it weird that there was a full moon last night and then today, April Fools? You should also read the Ishtar, Easter, Ostara connection. While Saturnalia, aka Saturn, is a veneration of vegetation in remembrance that once the winter ends, life will grow again. Easter, Ishtar, is the celebration of that rebirth. The celebration of Easter relating to resurrection is so far removed from the winter solstice, December 20th through the 23rd, one might wonder why, if the sun dies for 3 days and is resurrected or reborn, and this is the origin of Jesus' birthday, then why is his resurrection not observed until roughly 4 months later? Easter is a celebration of the rebirth of the earth, and since Jesus is the solar deity, he brings that life back. The holiday, Holy Day, typically falls on the first Sunday after this first full moon around the vernal spring equinox, which on the wheel of the year is one of 4 minor Sabbaths and the midpoint between Yule, winter solstice, December 20th through the 23rd, and Litha, summer solstice, June 20th through the 23rd. Since Easter is celebrated on the first full moon, this again shows the relationship between our modern holidays and ancient holy days associated with the stars. Typically, the first full moon falls in early April or late March. Some churches, however, still celebrate Easter on different dates due to the current use of the Julian calendar as opposed to the Gregorian calendar. The Eastern Orthodox Church celebrates the resurrection after Passover because the crucifixion and resurrection supposedly took place after the biblical Passover. It wasn't until the year 325 AD when Emperor Constantine convened the Council of Nicaea in modern-day Turkey that it was decided for Easter to be celebrated on the first Sunday after the full moon in spring. So the spring equinox also symbolizes dominion of light over darkness as days become slightly longer than nights. So this concept is also representative of the dual aspects of dark and light, black and white, which I was bringing up earlier. Hello, bingo, Lucifer, Jesus. The light, the dark, the yin, the yang, opposites, a part of the same spectrum. Opposite spectrums, a part of the same connection point. I don't know. What word should I use there? What's a good word for that? That is incredible. It all goes back to the heavens, to the stars, and the planets, and these angels and these deities. Angels, angles. Watch out for the angles in the emerald tablets when you get past certain levels, and always watching. Always, always, always being prepared, to say the least. Now, read Astro Shamanism. This book is awesome. And this talks about the 12 sectors and totem spirits of the sacred cone circle. And since it's Easter, Ishtar, and it's also, being today Sunday, which is a representation of the sun, Utu, Ra, Ra, gold, East, and the power there, harness that in connection with Venus. Because Venus, Easter, Ishtar, and how powerful Venus was last year. I'm going to share something with you real quick. So, Sector 7, Libra, planet Venus, Adahara, and green. So the totem spirit is Adara. Share this with you too. The table of the planetary chants. Venus. Nati na. Nati na. Nati na. Nati na. So chant 4 times. And okay, so in closing, I need to say oh. So let me do it again. Na, ti, na, na, ti, na, na, ti, na, na, ti, na, oh. Cool. Well, that felt good. Hello, felt a little nah, ti, nah. Anyway, be excellent to each other. And have you ever, in closing, I want to say, have you ever had a $12 candy bar before? Well, I was recently in Park City, and hamburgers out there were like $20 for a hamburger, and a salad was like $25. Well, I went to a coffee shop, and I saw these little samples of chocolate, and I'm like, oh, that looks really good. So I had, I don't know, several samples of this really delicious chocolate. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm going to get a chocolate bar. So I picked up this delicious chocolate bar. By the way, it was delicious. These are made in Park City. I mean, absolutely delicious. Don't get me wrong. This was a vanilla Madagascar bourbon vanilla, 70% candy bar, chocolate bar. And I mean, even had the date on it when it was made, how long it's good until, $12. $12, ladies and gentlemen. Have you ever had a $12 chocolate bar? And was it worth it? Yeah, it was worth it. I probably wouldn't have purchased it though, but I tried so many samples, I felt bad not purchasing one. I was like, oh, $12? Okay. I mean, it was more than the coffee. And, the coffee had like 4 shots of espresso, and the coffee was pretty good also. But I don't know why I wanted to share that with you, but I just thought it was quite fascinating because I didn't know they had chocolate bars that were so expensive. But when you're in Park City and a hamburger's $20, I mean, what do you expect, right? So that was my meal for the next